Joining me now on the show is the owner of Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, located in downtown Royal Oak. Mark Ridley with us now on the MegaCast. Mark, thank you for being with us again.
You're welcome. Thank you, Tyler.
Appreciate it. So it's been a little while since we've last had you on the show. Definitely a lot has changed on the COVID-19 front. Since then, a lot more things have opened back up. There's been more regular shows across all entertainment, including in our comedy clubs across the state of Michigan. Of course, now dealing with the Omicron variant kind of changes the situation a little bit. How have things been lately for you and your business over there at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, and how have things maybe changed, or how are you planning to maybe modify things with the latest surge that's been had in the COVID-19 front?
Well, I can say for the most part, it's been very, very good. Just looking, like last night, we had the Detroit to LA comedy finals, and 340 people showed up for that to watch the show. This week, I have TJ Miller from a lot of movies in HBO's Silicon Valley, and all those shows are sold out. So, people are coming in, and a lot of them are still wearing masks. We have every intention of remaining open, and as long as people do their best to, protect themselves. I mean, it's really what it comes down to. We're doing everything we can at the venue, but we ask that the customers do what they can to make sure they're protected.
On the business front, being back open in a more regular fashion, being able to have comedians locally and across the country that you recruit come in and do shows in the club. How has that changed? How has that helped your business make a comeback from the financial woes of the earlier portions of the pandemic where clubs were closed? Some of the shows, if they were being done, they were being done virtually, but they were few and far between.
Well, yeah, we still have ways to go. I'm not going to lie. It is an exercise that, as a business owner, that I have to accept and be real about it, and just hope that there's no more surprises out there. I read the news every morning, and I see that in cases where certain countries have been hit, they've pretty much peaked out. One can only hope that the United States and Michigan in particular, we're peaking out maybe by the end of this month and starting to see a downturn. It's all about wait and see. I mean, I relay a story about my grandfather when I was young. He used to tell us stories about living through the Spanish flu in 1918, 1920. And he was in his mid to late 20s then. And he said, just when we thought it was over, it started up again. So, here we are 100 years later going through pretty much the same thing.
And then in terms of the comedians that you bring into your club, of course, as I said before, local comedians, but also comedians that have national recognition, some that are very big names that will come to the Detroit area, to downtown Royal Oak, and perform at your club. It's been a trying time for them as well, especially those that are comedy is their entire career. They tour the U.S. They're going from city to city, performing their comedy. How's it been for them, and how's the response been from them being able to come back into clubs such as Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle and perform in front of an audience again and perform more regularly?
Well, I mean, listen, you're right. This is their livelihood. And anytime you take someone's livelihood from them, they're not getting a check. Some comedians make a great amount of money. Others just live week to week and trying to build their stock in the company, and so to speak, in the art. So it has been tough, and some have dropped out altogether. I know one comedian in particular who started with me and then passed away from COVID in California. So it is a trying time. But again, that being said, it's a waiting game. I personally am triple vaxxed, so is my wife. And we do everything to minimize exposure. And I know a lot of the comedians have done the same thing. They've just taken time off, especially some of my local comedians. I can think of 3 or 4 that said, we're not going to go back out and perform until it feels right. So they're basically losing one of 2 earnings in that respect, but some can work from home too, their day job.
We're joined by Mark Ridley, who is the owner of Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, joining us on the MegaCast as many upcoming shows going on over at the Comedy Castle. Brett Hayden's Comedy Rumble will be there on January 18th later on in the week here, and then Jackie Cashian will also be there on January 20th and 21st, among the many different shows that are coming up over there at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. And you can learn more information about that by going to their website as well, or just searching Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle and seeing all of their upcoming shows over there in downtown Royal Oak. And so, Mark, over the weekend, some saddening news on Sunday evening came in as we learned about the death of comedian Bob Saget. Of course, many people know him from his iconic role as Danny Tanner on Full House and as the host of America's Funniest Home Videos. But he's also a prolific stand-up comedian who toured the U.S. and went to many different clubs, including your club numerous times at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. For you, having met Bob and multiple times and having had a relationship with him ongoing over the years, tell us what your lasting memories are of Bob Saget.
Well, you know, he was one of my earliest headliners. I opened in 1979 and he headlined in 1980. And I think back to when he first hit the stage, and I have never seen it this many times, but he got 3 encores, and that is extremely rare in the comedy business. And for the most part, he would get 2, you know, sometimes 3 encores every show. And he headlined almost every year until things took off with him for Full House. But the other thing I really remember is that, you know, just what a gentle person he was and a caring person. It was never about him. He would always ask about you or other people. He would come to my house for, you know, for lunch. And then my then wife and I remember one incident, my son, who's now 40, I have 2 sons, 45 and 40. The one that was 40 was a brand new baby. And he walked in and picked him up and said, "Oh, I love babies. I got to have a baby." And right then and there, he said, "Can I call my wife?" And I said, "Sure." And he called his wife and said, "Sherry, I'm holding Mark's baby. We've got to have children. We got to start having children." So he went on to have 3 daughters. And then the next time he came in, I think, is my older son, who's now 45, we went to see The Empire Strikes Back together. And I looked over at Ryan, who was probably 5 or 6 at the time, and Bob, and both of them were just like, well, they were just staring at the screen, just, you know, utterly enthralled with the movie. And Bob, after we left, was asking Ryan all kinds of questions about the movie, his thoughts and things like that. So, you know, it was just a really down-to-earth, solid guy. His heart was as big as his body. I mean, he was just wonderful.
Yeah, and there was a really nice tribute that was done at the beginning of Jimmy Kimmel Live on his Monday show the day after learning of Bob's death. And what he had said that really struck me was the thing he's heard repeatedly in the tributes to Bob from people that had met him, from people that, of course, worked with him, were close with him, was that he was very sweet, he was nice, just the sweetest person you could ever know. And just from reading from reading the tweets and from stories and from articles and from watching videos of people talking about Bob in the wake of his death, the one thing that I really capture is he makes that effort. He would make that effort to check in with people, even if he hadn't seen them for a long time, just because they popped up in his head, and really made an effort to get to know people on a personal level and then develop that care for them, which is something that's rare in entertainment to see from people. It's rare in regular life as well. How did that help to inform the way that he went about his performance as well, especially from being a comedian, with that being so interactive with an audience? Do you think that helped Bob, just that caring nature of his, become such a prolific comedian that he was?
Yes, because he genuinely wanted to make people laugh. He cared about the art of comedy, and I say the art, it is an art. It's like music or any other art form. And again, I saw him pre-Full House and America's Funniest Home Videos, and then years later, I'm talking maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, he was performing at the Royal Oak Theater, and he called me. I happened to be at the club, and he said, "Are you going to be there for a while?" I said, "Well, yeah, what's up?" He goes, "I just want to stop by and say hi." And it had been probably 20 years since I'd seen him. So he came over, he asked about my sons, who he remembered, and he asked about the club, how everything was going. It wasn't about like, I'm doing this, I'm doing, because I already knew how well he was doing. But he just wanted to check in with me. And he gave me just the biggest hug. And that was one of the things I think a lot of people remember is Bob was a big, tall, lanky guy, but a proficient hugger. He just loved to hug people. I checked in with Dave Coulier when I heard about the news, and I texted him that night, and I didn't want to call him because they were just so close. And the next morning I received a text at just how heartbroken. He said, Mark, it's going to take a while to process this, and I'll call you when we're, when I'm in a better place. But he's just absolutely heartbroken. And, I think that the people that went to see him, you could be sitting in the front row or you could be sitting in the back of the theater or the club, and everybody felt like Bob was talking to them. That's what was really cool about his act. He would look people down front, look towards the back, ask about the people in the back. And, you could just really tell that he cared.
Yeah, and he took that as the biggest point of pride, it seems, from the stories that I've heard and from what I've read and all the things that are online, the tributes to Bob Saget, is that he really took to heart that interactive nature of comedy and really just the interactive nature of being alive. And he enjoyed that. That's where he got the pride from and the joy from. And like you said, it definitely helped with his act, with his comedy, because it's so interactive and it engages the audience. For other comedians that are coming up, and from you having experienced what made Bob so special on a human level and what made Bob so special as a comedian, what can people that maybe are interested in comedy as a hobby, as a career, or those that are already in the business, what can they learn, whether they're in comedy or even in another form of entertainment, not only about being an entertainer, but about being a person in entertainment, from the life and the legacy of Bob Saget?
Well, I think that one of the biggest things is, just no matter who you meet, just be nice to them, because, one day's assistant might be the next day's boss. Bob's early manager was a gentleman by the name of Brad Gray, and Brad managed Bob, Gary Shandling, Dave Coulier. Well, Brad was a night manager at a bar in Buffalo when they had a comedy night, and that's when he decided he wanted to go. And I'm talking 1980, maybe 1979. He decided he wanted to go in the entertainment business. Well, that being said, Brad moved up in the world, became partners in a management company in Los Angeles, and eventually became the president of Paramount Pictures. So, from bartender to president of Paramount is a big leap. And those are the people that you meet in the entertainment business. Again, Tim Allen's manager, Rick Messina, used to be a bartender at a club in New York. These are all really good businessmen, and a lot of people would not give them a second look. I'm not saying, all people are like that, but I'd say Bob was right in how he approached living life. Everybody was important to him, no matter if it's somebody who was staying late, cleaning up the club, or the owner of the club, like myself. Every person was very, very important to him. So I think that's what you just have to. It's a good life lesson. Be nice to everybody.
Yeah, and I think I think that definitely is the lesson that is being taken away from all the discussions on his life and on his legacy in his 65 years that he was with us here on Earth. So, Mark, thank you very much for joining us. I want to give you another couple of minutes before we say goodbye to let us know if anything else that is upcoming here in the near future over at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, or anything else that you'd like to say about Bob Saget.
Well, I could go on and on about Bob and all the memories, and one day maybe I will. It's just I'll miss him tremendously. But he's with Norm Macdonald now, and Don Rickles, and a lot of the other. They're probably having a heck of a roast around the table, busting each other's chops. Yeah. But it's Bob's passing is certainly not the first one that I've experienced in this business. There are quite a number of comedians. I just celebrated my 43rd year in business. So there's a number of comedians that have come and gone, and all of them contributed something, and I have a lot more coming up. It's just, the year is just about finished being booked, and I've got some big names. I'm working on a couple of surprises, and all I can do is just keep forging ahead and developing that new talent that's coming up here in Metro Detroit.
Well, Mark, we're excited to see all that new talent over at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, and thank you so much for joining us to talk about what's coming up at your comedy club, and also to talk about your dear old friend Bob Saget.
Thank you very much, Tom.